defence capability. In other words, shoot up the anti-aircraft positions and radar that the Libyans have on the ground. You would have to do this in order to establish a no-fly zone, so no illusions here. It would be a military operation. It would be a military operation. It wouldn't simply be telling people not to fly aeroplanes. And so, in a sense, what he's saying is, you know, the fight continues. Even if we try and enforce a no-fly zone, it's not going to be over in 5 minutes.
No, but I think there's a kind of an added security there, as we've seen in previous conflicts when NATO planes have been brought into action in Kosovo and in Bosnia, for example. It sends a very telling sign, and I think in the first Gulf War, Saddam's air force didn't last 5 minutes. So if Gaddafi is going to put his air force up in an air exclusion zone with NATO planes around, that would last 5 minutes. I'm not sure how far that would go, but yes, there's going to be bloodshed.
Tony, let me stop you. Let me stop you there, because also what Saddam did was he moved his people into areas that he knew were going to be bombed. And there's a possibility that Gaddafi could do exactly the same thing. You know, this base is going to get hit. Let's move lots of people there. It's still going to be very dangerous for the Libyan people.
Well, it's dangerous. It's not very safe now, and I think the problem is we don't know. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos. I mean, what does Gaddafi control? If you listen to people here, he controls an area of about 6 square kilometres apart from his hometown. But who knows what's going to happen, and will those people fight till the end? If they realise that everything is lost, will they simply give up and put their weapons down? We don't know. There's lots of unknowns in all this. But I think the momentum in the international community and saying things like the air exclusion zone only helps the cause. I don't think it detracts from it.
What about the people behind you, those in those big conurbations? Are they worried about getting enough food, enough fuel, all of the basic necessities of life?
I think people here are actually swayed by the fact that are they getting enough democracy? That's what they want more than anything. They want this man out. They want to start the new Libya. Food is coming in here. Further west is a bit of a problem. There's not so much food and medicine, but that is starting to filter through. We're getting aid planes landing at the airport. Ships are going to come in, and they have an open access to Egypt. So that is not the main problem here now. They want to see democracy. They want to see the new Libya actually starting now. So they're getting a little bit frustrated. You have a lot of, you know, brave talk here. We will march. We will do this. We will do that. I mean, reality dictates different things. They will have to sort of look at what the situation is on the ground. You've got generals here trying to mobilize people to have the military option at their disposal. But as I say, time will tell. They're hoping they won't have to resort to that.
Indeed. Tony Birdley, thanks very much indeed in Benghazi. That's on the eastern edge of Libya, moving across to the other side, the western side of the country. Aid's being sent to the Tunisian-Libyan border. Tensions there extremely high. There have been skirmishes between the crowds fleeing Libya and the border guards there. Security forces say they've been overwhelmed by the number of people trying to get into Tunisia. Thousands of Libyan and indeed foreign nationals have been camping out there for almost a week while they wait for some kind of help. Let's hear from James Bays, who's near that border.
It's a really chaotic situation here. Problems have been growing at the border for days, but I think it's fair to say that things are now at breaking point. The crowd at the other side of this border, on the Libyan side, has been growing. The conditions for them have been getting much worse. We've seen people being taken from that crowd who've collapsed, people who've fainted, suffering from dehydration and stress, people who've been on the long road from Tripoli, a dangerous journey, and then stuck in that crowd. The Tunisian authorities also overwhelmed by about 1,000 people that they're processing here every hour. Some people have been climbing over the wall, and at one point the Tunisian authorities had to fire in the air to stop people coming forward. There are also local men here with sticks standing on the walls who've been beating back parts of the crowd.
Back to the White House, Jay Carney, Obama's press spokesman, talking about moving warships to the North African coast.
Block access to $30 billion of assets held by the Libyan regime, by members of the regime. That's a pretty strong message about the consequences of this continued behavior. The United Nations has, with incredible speed, made clear that it will refer to the International Criminal Court the abuses of human rights that are being proven to have happened in Libya and continue to happen, and that demonstrates the international community's commitment to hold accountable those who would perpetrate the kind of violations that we've been seeing and hearing about. That produces, we believe, pressure on the regime. And as I said yesterday, that those who are around Colonel Gaddafi, who are wondering which way they should go and whether or not they should continue to support this leader who no longer has credibility at home or anywhere in the world, they ought to think twice about it, because the consequences of continuing to support Colonel Gaddafi are quite severe. They will be held accountable.
Last week we saw a rash of Libyan ambassadors and some ministers and others separating themselves, removing themselves from the Libyan regime. We have not seen that in recent days, even as the U.S. has upped the pressure. You're talking about those around Gaddafi needing to think about what side they want to be on. If you know, right now, hypothetically, stepping into one of their shoes, I don't really know how it's going to go. It doesn't really seem like the momentum for him to actually have to be forced from office is there right now.
Well, Jake, I would...
Based on activities last week compared to this week.
I would say, first of all, I understand as that, and that's a fair question. I understand that as we all watch the events in the Middle East and Libya and other countries, that the drama we are witnessing creates in us a sense of urgency. But when you say you don't see a sense of momentum, my goodness, would anyone have predicted 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago that Colonel Gaddafi would be in this position that he is in now? Where great swaths of the country are no longer in the control of his regime, where the entire international community, including Arab nations, have arrayed against him and called him illegitimate and not credible as a leader. So I would say that...
Just talking about those in the regime, leaving the regime.
Again, you're talking about a matter of days since, or if that, hours maybe, since high-level officials around him have separated themselves from him. So I'm not sure I can accept the premise that there is a lack of momentum.
When's the last one who left the regime? Who's the last one that did?
Jake, what I'm saying is that the rapidity of events in the last 10 days is rather remarkable. So the idea that things are moving slowly, I just don't think is credible. Yes, Dan.
Is the administration surprised at all that Gaddafi doesn't appear to be getting the message? I mean, despite the sanctions, and I know it's only been last Friday, but still, as Jake was pointing out, no sign that he's backing down. So is there surprise that these sanctions or whatever, these other options that you have on the table so far are not making much?
I won't bore you by repeating exactly what I said to Jake, but the point, I could mix it up, use some new verbs, but the point is the same, that events have moved with remarkable speed, and we have reacted, both the United States, President Obama, the international community, with remarkable speed. And not everything we do comes in the form of a speech or an announcement. One of the reasons why we had so much success, we and our partners, in moving the international process forward so quickly is